The neon lights of the Hollywood Hills didn't feel glamorous tonight. They felt like a fever dream. Billie sat on the edge of a velvet sofa in a dimly lit recording studio, the kind of place where the air is thick with the scent of expensive espresso and old secrets. She was staring at her phone, her thumb hovering over a notification that had just set the internet on fire. It wasn't a leaked track. It wasn't a paparazzi photo. It was a video clip from an interview Nat Wolff had given earlier that evening. Nat Wolff, the indie darling known for his raw honesty and cinematic charm, had been asked a standard, throwaway question about his musical influences. But instead of the usual scripted answer, he had paused. He looked directly into the camera, his expression shifting from playful to hauntingly serious. "There's a song," Nat had said, his voice dropping an octave. "A song Billie wrote years ago. Everyone thinks it's about a breakup. But I'm the only one who knows what it's actually about, because I'm the one who told her the story that inspired it. And I've kept that secret for 5 years. But I can't keep it anymore." The clip ended there, but the meltdown wasn't just online. It was happening right here in the studio. The silence of the studio. Billie's brother, Phineas, looked over from the mixing board. He saw the way she was holding her breath, her eyes wide and unblinking. "Billie, you okay?" She didn't answer. Her mind was racing back to a rainy night in 2021, a night the world didn't know about. A night spent on a balcony in London, where she and Nat had talked until the sun came up. She had always tucked that memory away in a locked box, labeled it inspiration, and never looked back. But Nat had just picked the lock. "He promised," she whispered, finally finding her voice. "He promised he would never bring up that night.
He knows what that song means to me.
He knows it's the only piece of myself I haven't fully explained to the fans." The meltdown wasn't a loud, screaming fit. It was an internal collapse of the boundaries she had worked so hard to build. Her phone began to vibrate incessantly, managers, publicists, and friends all demanding to know. What did he mean? What is the confession? Unable to sit still, Billie grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. She didn't need to call him. She knew exactly where he'd be, the old piano bar in Silver Lake where they used to hide from the world. When she swung the heavy oak doors open, the bar was nearly empty. Nat was sitting at the very back, a glass of water in front of him, staring at the keys of a silent, upright piano. He didn't look up when she slammed her phone down on the table. "What are you doing, Nat?" she demanded, her voice trembling with a mix of betrayal and exhaustion. "You're trending everywhere. People are dissecting every lyric I've ever written because of what you said." Nat finally looked up. His eyes weren't filled with the triumph of a PR stunt. They were filled with a profound, quiet regret. "I didn't do it for the headlines, Billie," he said softly. "I did it because I'm tired of the lie. That story I told you, the one that became the bridge of your biggest hit? I told you it happened to a friend of mine. I told you I was just a witness." He took a deep breath. "It was me, Billie. The person in that song who lost everything, the person who walked away when they should have stayed, that was me. And every time I hear your voice sing those words on the radio, I feel like I'm trapped in that moment again. I told the truth today because I couldn't let you carry that weight alone anymore. I wanted the world to know the song isn't just yours. It's a ghost that haunts both of us." The room went still. The meltdown Billie had been feeling, the panic, the anger, suddenly shifted. It transformed into a heavy, grounding realization. The song wasn't a secret weapon he was using against her. It was a bridge he was finally crossing. She sat down across from him. The silence between them was no longer tense. It was shared. Outside, the world was still screaming, typing theories, and demanding answers. But inside, under the dim yellow lights, two artists were finally speaking the same language. "You should have just called me," Billie said, a small, sad smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "I know," Nat replied. "But then again, we've always been better at telling the world our secrets than telling each other." As the night wore on, the internet continued to spiral, but Billie Eilish wasn't looking at her phone anymore. She was listening to the truth, finally stripped of the music. The air in the Los Angeles recording studio was usually sterile, professional, and calm. But tonight, it felt like the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. Billie Eilish sat on the edge of a swivel chair, her hands trembling as she held her phone. On the screen, a clip was looping for the 20th time. It was an interview from a late-night talk show, and the man speaking was Nat Wolff. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't promoting a movie. He looked haunted. "Everyone asks about the lyrics," Nat had said to the host, his voice cracking. "But nobody asks about the night they were written. Billie, she's been protecting me for 5 years. But I can't let her take the heat for a story that was never hers to begin with. It was mine. It was always mine." The silence before the storm. Phineas stood by the soundboard, his arms crossed, watching his sister. He knew the look on her face. It wasn't just anger, it was a total system failure. The world knew Billie for her composure, her sharp wit, and her ability to turn pain into platinum records. But this was a breach of a pact they had made in blood and ink half a decade ago. "He promised," Billie whispered. The silence of the studio made her voice sound hauntingly small. "Phineas, he swore he would never tell anyone that the song was about him. He knew what would happen. He knew the internet would tear us both apart." Outside the soundproof walls, the digital world was already in a state of absolute chaos. The hashtag the confession was trending worldwide. Fans were deconstructing every syllable of Billie's discography, looking for the Nat Wolff fingerprints they had missed for years. Billie couldn't stay in the studio. She felt the walls closing in. She grabbed her oversized hoodie, pulled the drawstrings tight, and slipped out the back exit. She didn't call a driver. She needed the cold air and the hum of an engine to ground her. As she drove through the winding roads of the Hollywood Hills, her mind drifted back to 2021. It was a summer of secrets. She and Nat had spent weeks hidden away from the paparazzi, sharing stories that were too heavy for the public eye. One night, under a bruised purple sky, Nat had confessed a truth to her, a mistake he had made, a bridge he had burned, and a regret that kept him awake at night. "Write it," he had told her then. "Turn my mess into something beautiful. Just don't tell them it's me." She had done exactly that. She had turned his confession into a masterpiece. And now, with a few sentences on national television, he had set fire to the veil of anonymity she had built for him. She knew where he'd be. There was a quiet stretch of beach near the Santa Monica Pier where they used to go when the noise of fame got too loud. When she arrived, the fog was rolling in, thick and salty. Nat was standing near the water's edge, looking like a silhouette against the gray horizon. He didn't turn around when she approached. He just sighed. Billie pulled her phone out.